Thank you for inviting me this morning. As many of you know, that I've been very, very close to the Jewish community for almost 30 years. I've worked with a lot of rabbis. I've worked with Rabbi Schneider on his board for 28 years. I've lit the menorah on Central Park South with Rabbi Butman for 25 years. We helped build a library with Rabbi Grossman and McDowell Orr. I worked with Rabbi Metzger and solving certain issues in Jerusalem. I was the highest ranking layperson in the Greek Orthodox Church for many years. So I worked on national issues and international issues. I also worked very, very closely with bringing together the Catholics, the Orthodox Christians, as well as the Jewish community, because we believe through religion we can bring everybody together worldwide. And many of you know that, and I look forward to doing that in the future. We are fighting for the soul of New York City. We all love New York. I made a ton of money in New York. I'm not hiding from doing well. My family grew up well, my kids did well. My daughter married the son and the grandson of an ex-president, President Nixon. And what I want is what's best for New York City. So we have questions. I have a problem with some of the Democratic people that are running, that New York City has a chance of going backwards to where we were in the 1980s, where our elderly were scared to walk around, where our city was just out of control. And we certainly don't want to go back to those days. I have stood up and I've said that January 3rd, when I take over as mayor, my #1 priority is to keep our streets safe. And I am one of the only ones from the very beginning, I didn't flip-flop on this one, that supported Ray Kelly, that I believe we want Ray Kelly to stay to keep our city safe. And that's a priority. I've also said that on January 3rd, when we take over, that I'm going to freeze taxes because taxes are too high. And that includes all these fees and permit fees and water bills and all this, I was going to use a Jewish word, Cindy. But that's, and I tell my friends, whom do you trust not to raise your taxes? And when I say something, people that know me a long time, that's what I'm going to do. In addition, the Republicans have a problem. They have to nominate somebody that has the capability and the ability to win November 5th. Now, money, we're not short money, guys. I've spent already $6 million for the primary. I'll spend what I have to do November 5th. So we have the ability to get our message across, the ability to use common sense. Everybody that knows me for the last 30, 40 years knows I'm a common sense individual and I do the right things. One of the union presidents that deals with my company for 20 years said in the Wall Street Journal, you know what he said? John is tough, but he's fair. And that's what I stand for. Anybody can be tough, but who has a heart? I have a heart. I'm tough, fair, and have a heart. Thank you for inviting me this morning. And
public safety is obviously something that's on the mind of all of us, and our community is especially interested to see how we can go about improving that. How would you, as mayor?
I missed the first words of your sentence.
Public safety,
yes.
Pardon me.
Yeah.
How would you go about either overturning or trying to skirt around the decisions by Judge Shindlin and the decision by the city council with respect to stop and frisk and similar measures?
Well, I have, look, all my life I've had many ways to do that. Number one, with the stop and frisk law, that I've always said that we have to be technologically more productive and go into the 21st century. First of all, early technology. Why are we not, instead of frisking people, why are we not using what they use in the airports? Metal detectors. I mean, it's simple. I mean, I just don't understand it. That way nobody can accuse you of frisking anybody. Number two, there's a 21st century technology coming where you can stand 10 feet away from the person, scan him, and you can tell if he's carrying a gun. But that technology is about a year and a half away. So how do we bridge the gap? You know, and I think I will fight hard. I will keep Ray Kelly. I will fight hard to, and I'll continue the lawsuit that Mayor Bloomberg has started. And I'm fighting for your safety. Who else is going to keep us safe? And who has the courage to fight hard and put, remember what I said publicly, my size 13 shoe down. And I'll be there. Thank you. Next.
Any other questions?
Oh, Cindy.
John, didn't you send your kids to parochial school?
What?
Did you send your kids to parochial school?
Yes.
Can you talk about your feelings about parochial school?
Well, I believe the yeshivas and I believe the Catholic schools are doing a much better job than our public school system. Our public school system in certain areas in the city, we have a 35 to 40% dropout rate. I went to the Catholic Archdiocese and had a meeting with them. You know what their dropout rate is? 3%. I just practically wanted to give them the keys. I said, you guys really see, you know? And I'm sure the yeshivas are almost as high, right? So, almost as low. I believe in education. I believe we should fund as much as possible as legal, other than religious education, our religious schools, because they're doing a better job of educating the kids than the public schools are. So, one more question here, sir?
Housing.
Housing.
Housing is a major issue for us.
Yes.
Affordable housing, but not just low income, middle income. The biggest problem that we have is that we do not have, as some neighborhoods have, vacant buildings that can take, hand over to nonprofits and redo.
In my spare time, one of our businesses being developed. Everybody knows me for Gristedes, but you know how much sales Gristedes represents of our overall company? 3%. We're developers. We're developing 1,400,000 square feet in Brooklyn by Myrtle Avenue and Flatbush. I believe we should have a better system in place. I'm going to put a better system in place where we have low-income housing. We're going to allow, if the zoning, I want to upzone the zoning and do it around transit-oriented development. We have $1 trillion subway system that you can't replace for $1 trillion. So if you take the subway station here and you upzone around it, what are you doing? You're providing transportation for the people that need it, number one. We upzone and say to the people, okay, to developers, and give them tax credits. You know why? For people to take money out of their pockets in New York City and put it down, there's got to be incentives. I know that. I come from that sector. I want to build low-income housing. I want to build middle-income housing and allow them to build market-rate housing on the top and create. And the other big issue that I find in the Jewish community is they're telling you, oh, we'll give you low-income housing, but you have to break up your community and have to go someplace else. No. We will find ways to do it within each of your communities. That way your people stay together. One of the things that I really respect the Jewish community for is how you keep your people together and keep them in an area. And I think that's so valuable We got to find how to put those kind of developments within the areas of your community. See, I understand the problems. I have the common sense. I want to help. If I win, and I have the ability to win November 5th, I win. We all win. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor to be here.
Can you elaborate on cops walking around with metal detectors?
What do you want me to elaborate on?
You mentioned about cops walking around with metal detectors to
They
frisk
should.
people.
You want to do it inside?
Let's do it over here. Can you elaborate on the police officers in New York walking around with metal detectors?
Well, I don't think there's any of them walking around with metal detectors now, but it's an acceptable tactic or an acceptable thing at the airports. Instead of touching people, why don't they have metal detectors to detect and see if any guns? We got to keep the guns off the streets, and we got to keep our citizens safe.
Yeah.
And that's the important thing.
Do you think the
And
cops...
there's new technology coming. You know, we got great policemen. We want to hire more of them. We want, and the new technology is you can be 10 feet away and scan the person, and you can tell if he has a gun or not.
And you want it to be on their belt, each officer to have it on their belt?
It depends who's on what duty. If you're not on duty to be, to detect that kind of, no. But if you're on that particular duty in the neighborhood, yes. Thank you.